Hi, and welcome to another video by Jim the Car Guy. Today this video is going to be a little bit different than most of the repair videos I do. I just want to address a problem that I've noticed, and I'm sure a lot of you guys already know it too, is that there's a lot of so-called unscrupulous mechanics, or as I've heard from other people, stealerships that are actually taking advantage of people. I just want to bring out this fact, that if you have your owner's manual and you look at your owner's manual and you see that it says transmission service at 100,000 miles or whatever, oil changes, cabin filters, any kind of maintenance stuff, whatever it says in that manual in black and white, that's what you want to go by pretty much. You don't want to listen to what the so-called mechanic, who is actually probably just a service writer, who probably his job is just to sell you product, and what they're going to do is they're going to try to get you in and sell you stuff that's unneeded repair. I'm going to give you an example. I had a customer come to me the other day. She's got a Honda, very good condition. It's only got like 30,000 miles on it. Just bought it from this same dealership at 25,000 miles. She brings it in for her free oil change, as they say, and as she's sitting there waiting for her free oil change to be performed, the service writer comes in. He starts talking to her like she's the best friend of this guy in the whole wide world. And you know, you have to be prepared for that, because they're going to try to get on your good side before they come in and they hit you with what has to be done. After talking to the guy leaves, he comes back in, he sits down like he's the best friend in the whole world, sits down and tells her, you got some really serious issues here that need to be addressed immediately, and our mechanics can take care of it right now while you wait for it. The first thing is, let me just remind you, she's only got 30,000 miles on this car, and she just got it from the dealership at 25,000 miles, so she put on 5,000 miles in the time she's had the car. They come in, they tell her that the brake fluid has got to be flushed because the brake fluid is no good. The power steering has got to be flushed because the fluid is dirty. The transmission needs to be serviced to change the oil and the filter. And the last but not least is she needs to change the cabin filter. So she calls me up and she doesn't know what to do. She says, you know, I thought the car was in good shape, this, that, and the other thing. So when I looked on the computer, it actually recommended for the transmission service to be done at 100, and the brakes were like brand new, so there's really no reason to do anything with that. So I said, you know, just tell them thank you, but no thank you, and get out of there. She tried to get out of there as quick as she could, but they kept on pushing that it's extremely dangerous. You're going to have a problem. You're going to blow the engine. You're going to damage your transmission. Long story short, she did take my advice and get out of there. Oh, I do want to add too that they tried to sell her a fan belt at 30,000 miles. And anybody who knows Hondas knows that you don't change a fan belt till you're probably up somewhere around 100,000 miles. So she gets the car down here. I take a look at it. Sure enough, there's nothing wrong with the fan belt. It's absolutely perfect condition, which I'm going to show you in a minute, how you can tell if a fan belt is good or no good. As far as the brake fluid being flushed out, you don't need to do a brake flush. And a lot of guys are going to push this, and I'm sure a lot of mechanics watching this are going to say this is incorrect information, but anybody who does a brake job knows that after you perform a brake job, you're going to bleed the brakes. You're going to make sure you get all that moisture out of there. So when you're doing your brakes, whether it's front or rear, you're going to be bleeding out the fluid inside the system anyway. So to flush the brake fluid is kind of a waste of time to do something like that, because when you do your brakes, any good shop or any dealership is going to wind up bleeding out the brakes anyway. So you're going to get that moisture out of there. As for the power steering being dirty at 30,000 miles, and we're not even going to address that, because that is out and outright a lie, and anybody in the business knows exactly what I'm telling you. As far as the transmission service, they're recommended 30,000 miles for that to be done, when in reality, you look on the computer or in the manual, the owner's manual states that the transmission fluid has to be serviced. I think it was either 100 or 120,000 miles. I don't recall exactly. I did look it up, but you know, that was the recommended interval. The bottom line I'm telling you is that if a dealership or a so-called mechanic tells you there's a problem and they try to scare you into doing it immediately, don't believe everything you hear. There's a lot of guys out there who are very honest, who are just telling you the truth and what needs to be done. Don't always assume that the so-called dealership knows best type attitude, because most of the time the dealership is just trying to sell service. They're going to get you in there for a free oil change or a very inexpensive oil change, and you're never going to leave just spending for an oil change. Same thing at these quick lube places, exact same problem. You go in there for a quick 10-minute oil change, and before you know it, instead of spending $40 for an oil change, you wind up walking out of there spending $300, $400, $500 for a transmission flush, power steering flush, brake fluid flush. Don't do it. It's a waste of your money, and it's just a scam. But there is an exception to the rule. Obviously, if you have very high mileage on the car, or if you're up into that zone of the mileage area, you will need to address that issue. So don't always assume that the mechanic is trying to screw you over. You have to know your mechanic, and that's why it's good to always have a good rapport with a regular mechanic that you deal with all the time. At a dealership, you're talking to a service writer, and his main job is to sell you service. He doesn't care whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing for your car. His job is to sell you product, whether you need it or not, and keep the guys in the back busy. So let me just show you that fan belt, why, what you have to look for, so you'll know if a belt is good or no good. Okay, what I want to show you is that a fan belt has grooves in it, and it's normal for, I'm going to show you the good part. See these grooves in here, the grooves that go up and down here, these grooves are normal. Don't let anybody tell you that these grooves are not normal, that they're no good. The ones that you have to worry about are the ones when you see the cracks developing across the belt this way. It would be from left to right. You see how this is starting to crack across there? This belt needs to be changed. If the belt looks like this and there is no cracks along it, then obviously you're not going to have to change any of the belts on there. Only when you get the cracks that are going across the belt this way here, or if the back of the belt is extremely dry, you may get a chirping noise off the belt. So be careful with that. All right. So, like I said, I kind of fought with myself whether I was going to do this video or not. And obviously, I'm not saying that all mechanics are going to try to take advantage of you and try to screw you over. There's a lot of good mechanics out there. There's a lot of guys who are just looking after your best interest and try to keep your car running properly without any kind of major complications. So don't assume that every mechanic is out to screw you over, because it's not the way it is. I've been in business 40 years, and you take care of your people, and you take care of their cars. They're going to have their cars for a long time. I have quite a few of my customers that have well over 150, 200,000 miles on their cars because they maintain them the way that I maintain my own cars. If you maintain them correctly, you're not going to have a problem. Another problem I've heard too from other my customers that have gone in for their free oil changes, they bring their car in for a free oil change, and before they know it, the service writer comes back and says that the mechanic found a bunch of issues with the brakes and struts and this, that, and the other thing. Now, I'm not saying that that doesn't happen. You do have trouble with your brakes. You do have trouble with your struts. Just before you agree to having the service work done, you got to know the shop that you're dealing with. You got to know the mechanic you're dealing with, and don't always assume that the brakes need to be done. I'll give you an example. I had a customer calls me up from a dealership, and they said to me that they were in for their free oil change, or in this particular case, I don't think it was a free oil change. I think it was a real cheap oil change because they had a coupon for it. When they brought the car into them, they pulled the wheels off it, they checked the brakes. They told them they had less than a 1/16 of an inch left on the brakes, and that the brakes needed to be done immediately. Quote them a price of all the way around, all 4 brakes getting done is over $1,000 because they had to change the rotors and such too. Customer didn't have the $1,000 to spend, so they wrapped the car up, they drive the car. A couple of months later, instead of them going back down to the dealership to have the service repair done that the dealership recommended and have their coupon oil change done again, they bring it into me and they get me to do the oil change on it. They said, listen, while the car is here on the lift, take the wheels off, take a look at it. The dealership told me it needs to have the front and rear brakes done, replace the brakes on the car. I get the car inside, do the oil change, pull the wheels off, and then call the guy up. It's like, what are you talking about, need brakes? Who told you you needed brakes on here? These brakes are like brand new. They were probably more than 3/4 of the life left on it. The point I'm making is that you have to know your car, keep accurate records of what you do, at what mileage you do it, so you have an idea of what's going to be needed and what's not going to be needed. In this particular case, the guy didn't have any issue with it. He had more than 3/4 of the life left on the car, on the brakes. So there was no issue. He needed nothing to be done to the car. So more than happy just to get his oil changed and just some basic, windshield wipers and stuff like that. And he was out the door, very happy. What I always do is if I'm doing something just so that my customers know that I'm not giving them the BS like some of these dealerships do, I do take a picture of it and I do show them a picture of if they're here, I'll bring them into the shop and I'll show them what everything looks like. If they're not here, I will take a picture of it and show them what's going on with it. Like the other day, I had a lady lives up the street up here. She brings a car down. She says to me, ever since you fixed my tire, my right rear tire, I might add, ever since you fixed my right rear tire last week or the week before, my light comes on the dashboard for low tire pressure. You must have incorrectly patched the tire. Get the car inside, check the tire out. Sure enough, it wasn't the right rear tire, it was the left rear tire. What I always do, just to play it safe, to cover my own rear end, is to take a picture of it just to show her that the car had another nail in another tire. So you're not going to piss your mechanic off if you ask him to show you what's going on with it. This lady was more than happy when I called her and told her that it wasn't the right rear tire, it was the left rear tire. And just to put her mind at ease, which I didn't have to do, but she's a good customer. I don't want her to have that doubt in her mind. I did snap a shot of it, just so she saw that it was the tire, it was the left rear tire, and sure enough, there was a nail dead center of the tire. So she was very happy to have that done. I've had this happen already before too, where you'll have a customer, and I've done brakes on customers' cars and done the brakes and the car leaves. I get a phone call from the customer. They're at the dealership, and the dealership is doing their coupon oil change for it, and they come to the customer and they tell the customer that your previous mechanic who's been working on your car put the wrong brakes on the car, and you need to replace them immediately or you're going to have a problem. They weren't the wrong brakes, they were actually an aftermarket brake pad. I don't use cheap brake pads, I only use premium brake pads. Monroe, Wagner, only top quality brake pads. I think the other ones I use all the time is the Thermoquite. Very, very, very good brake pad. And the Monroes, the Webestus, only top of the line stuff. What the dealer was trying to tell her is to put that doubt in her mind is that she's gone to somebody who put the incorrect brake pads on. They weren't from the dealer, so as far as the dealer was concerned, they were the wrong brake pads. Don't always listen to what your service guy is telling you, your service writer is telling you, because their job is just to sell you service. All right, so just something else to think about when you get that phone call from the dealership telling you that you need to have work done, or your mechanic put the wrong parts on there. Something to always keep in mind. All right, I hope all was helpful and didn't piss anybody off, but I just wanted you to be aware of the so-called dealerships that are actually know better than the repair shops do. Dealerships are good, but you got to know your dealership and you got to know what you're doing. Again, go by what the manual says. If the manual tells you it needs to have a cabin filter at 30,000 miles, you can rest assured you're going to need that cabin filter by the time you get to 30,000. You're not going to need it at 15,000 miles because it's not going to be dirty. All right, so don't let them scare you into doing service that you don't need to be performed. Use common sense, and like always, if you want, you send me an email. drop me a line. I'd be more than happy to discuss any kind of situation you have, whether it's a repair problem that you're having with a specific car or just in general. Anybody can send me an email, and I'd be more than happy to talk to anybody about anything. Again, thanks for watching. Hope you have a good day, and as always, see you on the next one.